Tate was getting annoyed with Riley's stubbornness, so he offered additional temptations. Fine, if you won't take money, then maybe you'll prefer momentary assets. No. Career advancement. No. Property. No. Travel. No. Partnership stakes. No. Tate's smile faded slightly with each answer. You're stubborn. I love Noah. Something dangerous flickered briefly across Tate's face at that sentence, then disappeared again. You love the version of Noah that still believes stability can save him, Tate said quietly. And you love the version that needs saving. The room went silent again. That one hit. Tate's jaw flexed slowly. Then he laughed under his breath. Maybe. Riley frowned slightly at the honesty. Tate picked up the pen again and tapped it once against the checkbook. So, his tone returned to calm, businesslike composure. Here are your remaining options. Riley stared at him warily. The money. Tab. The assets. Tab. The career opportunities. Tab. Or, Tate glanced lazily toward the dark windows overlooking the gardens. We continue this unpleasant little battle until one of us finally breaks. You think that'll be me? I know Noah, Tate said softly. Eventually he'll panic at conflict and try to make everybody happy. His eyes sharpened slightly. And when that happens, I'll still be here. Riley's expression hardened. You really think he'll choose you after this? Tate smiled faintly. No, he admitted quietly. I think he already did years ago. Tate shook his head slowly, looking genuinely exhausted now. Not frightened. Not guilty. Just tired. Tired of explaining himself. Tired of trying to reason with someone he clearly viewed as temporary. He rubbed a hand across his face before looking back at Riley with thinly veiled irritation. The mental gymnastics involved in trying to offer the annoying fiancé of the boy I love a better life is honestly becoming exhausting. My mother likes to pretend this is her house, Tate said calmly. Emotionally, maybe it is. Sentimentally, he shrugged faintly. Legally and financially, it's mine. Riley said nothing. I own this estate. Tate turned slightly, gesturing vaguely toward the mansion around them. The land, the trusts, the businesses are attached to the family, the investments, the inheritance structures. His voice remained eerily composed. Everything you toured tonight ultimately answers to me. Riley stared at him in disbelief. Tate continued like he hadn't spoken. Everybody in this family lives under my protection in one form or another. That sounds less like a family and more like a corporation. Rich families are like corporations, a visible business that is passed to each generation, Tate replied immediately. Most people are just too poor to realize it. Riley shook his head slowly. Tate glanced back out the window. My mother lives here because it pleases me. Riley blinked once. That's a horrible way to phrase that. It's accurate. She's your mother. And she's financially dependent on me. The bluntness of it unsettled Riley visibly. Tate noticed. I decide how resources get distributed, Tate continued. Who gets access to what, who receives protection, who remains attached to this family long-term. Tate's expression barely changed. You know, Noah used to live off my money too. Riley's expression shifted slightly at Noah's name. Tate noticed immediately. Before I arranged access to Joey's estate, Tate continued quietly, Noah depended on me financially almost entirely. Riley frowned. Noah never said that. Of course he didn't, Tate leaned back lightly against the desk. He hates feeling dependent on people. And you used that against him. No, Tate's expression sharpened immediately. I took care of him because Noah was worth the trouble. You keep confusing care with control. Tate's patience visibly thinned. If I hadn't intervened financially, he said coldly, Noah would currently be working some miserable 9-to-5 job pretending adulthood is fulfilling. There's nothing wrong with normal jobs. There is when they slowly kill people like Noah. Riley frowned. People like Noah. Sensitive people, Tate said quietly. People who need beauty, culture, comfort, and emotional intensity to function properly. You talk about him like he's fragile glass. He is fragile, but Noah is a rare kind of man. He doesn't need what most people desire with their greedy little thoughts. Noah just wants a happy life, someone he can depend on, and maybe a daughter someday. Tate looked away first. Then quieter now. Noah is the only joy I've ever had. The sentence changed the atmosphere immediately. For the first time all evening, Tate sounded honest in a way that wasn't strategic. Just exhausted. He's the only thing in my life that's ever consistently made me happy, Tate admitted softly. Riley didn't interrupt. Tate's eyes drifted toward the dark hallway outside the study. He could somehow sense Noah elsewhere in the house. The first person I genuinely cared about when I was growing up, he continued. The only person whose presence actually changes how the world feels for me. Riley watched him silently now. And you think I'm just going to let him disappear into some polite little marriage because society says that's healthier? Tate laughed bitterly. Absolutely not. You don't own his future. No, Tate's voice lowered dangerously, but I will fight for my place in it. Tate stared at Riley for a long moment after the silence settled again. Riley stared at Tate as he continued. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for Noah, Tate said. And there isn't anything I haven't already done for him. If Noah isn't going to be ecstatically happy, if he isn't going to dance for joy because he's fulfilled, I'm not going to support whatever this is. Riley's expression tightened. Tate, Noah probably wants to marry me. I don't doubt it, Tate replied, and so do most couples before they break off their engagements. Riley stared at him. I'm not trying to insult you, Tate continued. I'm telling you how I see it. I don't see any evidence that the two of you are going to make it long-term, and if I'm not convinced there's at least a 70% chance this marriage is going to last, I'm not giving it my support. You've actually calculated a percentage? Riley asked incredulously. Tate shrugged. I'm a businessman. Riley almost laughed, but Tate's expression remained completely serious. This is Noah, Tate said. I don't get to be casual about Noah. Riley nodded. I've caused enough anguish in Noah's life, Tate explained. He's cried enough tears over me. If there's anything I can do to keep him from crying more because of an unhappy decision, I'm going to do everything I can to talk him out of it. Riley stared at him. Marriage is serious business, Tate continued. It has to be honest. 90% of the people on this planet aren't cut out for marriage. They couldn't keep a wedding vow if their life depended on it. Tate. 60% of marriages end in divorce, and 70% of those divorces are initiated by the partner who is less masculine of the two. Riley frowned at the statistic, but Tate continued before he could interrupt. If I'm not overwhelmingly convinced, without any doubt, that Noah will look back on marrying you and think it was the best decision he ever made, I'm not supporting it. That's a pretty high standard. It should be. Tate's voice became quieter. Going through a divorce is like experiencing a death. People grieve their marriages for years. They grieve the person they thought they were going to grow old with, the future they imagined, and the life they planned with their ex. Sometimes they grieve it even when they were the ones who wanted out. Riley looked away for a moment. And I won't support something when I believe there's a greater chance Noah will eventually regret it than be happy he did it. He paused. I've already watched Noah hurt enough. I'm not going to stand there and smile while he walks into something I think might hurt him again. Tate continued before Riley could respond. And despite everything, I understand you've invested time in him. His tone became strangely measured again. Emotional connection, future plans, attachment. Riley frowned cautiously. I'm not dismissing that. You literally tried to pay me to disappear. I'm trying to compensate you appropriately. Riley stared at him in disbelief. Tate gestured lightly toward the desk. Find someone else, he said quietly. A nice boy, somebody stable, somebody who actually fits your parameters better. My parameters? Yes, Tate tilted his head slightly. Someone emotionally uncomplicated, someone not psychologically tied to a person like me. You really think Noah is ruined because he loves you? Tate's eyes darkened slightly. No, he said softly. I think Noah is tied to me in ways neither of us can fully undo anymore. Riley looked unsettled by the certainty in his voice. Tate continued calmly. You want marriage, harmony, predictability. He gestured lightly toward Riley. You want shared holidays and emotionally healthy communication and domestic peace. And that's bad. It's incompatible with Noah. That's not your decision to make. It becomes my decision when somebody tries to remove him from my life. Riley shook his head slowly. You act like he's some object being stolen. Tate's composure slipped for the first time in several minutes. Because every time Noah gets serious about someone, he snapped quietly, they try pulling him further away from me. Maybe because your relationship with him scares people, Riley snapped. Good, Tate said. Riley stared at him. You should be scared, Tate continued. Because you've never seen anything like this, you don't know what you're interrupting, you don't understand what you're preventing, and you don't understand how wrong it is that you're in this house. Riley's expression hardened. Wrong. Yes. You're telling me I'm not supposed to be here. I'm telling you that you walked into something you don't understand. Riley shook his head, then maybe you should explain it. Tate's eyes remained fixed on him. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Riley waited while Tate explained. Noah and I have history, Tate said. A lot of it, and I resent you coming in here and interfering with something you don't understand. Riley remained silent. You don't have a clue what I've done to keep Noah and myself together. You don't know what it required of me. You don't know what I've had to hold together, what I've had to sacrifice, or how many times I've had to put myself back together because of what happened between us. His voice tightened. And then you come walking into this house and start interfering with it. Of course that makes me angry. Riley studied him. Tate looked away for a moment. Noah doesn't understand, no one does. He looked back at Riley. If you had any empathy at all, any compassion, kindness, or even a little self-preservation, you would show respect for something you're nor a part of. Riley's expression hardened. And leave Noah alone, Tate finished. The room went quiet. Riley took a slow breath. You keep saying that like Noah belongs to you. Tate didn't answer immediately. No, he finally said. I'm saying that there are things about Noah that you don't understand yet, and I'm asking you to consider that maybe there's a reason I'm telling you to walk away. I don't understand, Riley said. What are you talking about? Tate stood from his chair. People die when they stand near me. Riley stared at him. One of my wife's friends died because she knew somebody who knew me. People I know start turning up dead when I'm around. Tate. I don't wish you any ill will, Tate said. I'm warning you, standing next to me is the worst decision you could ever make. Riley looked at him, trying to determine whether he was serious. I'm an ill omen, Tate continued. You don't want to be the sixth person who ends up dead. The room fell silent. Riley swallowed. For the first time that night, he couldn't tell whether Tate was exaggerating, threatening him, or genuinely trying to save his life. What do you mean people die when you're around them? Riley asked. Tate looked irritated. I'm saying people stop breathing when they're around me. Look at my relatives. Not one of them lived to be 60 years old. When people are around me, they die. Riley stared at him. You think it's a coincidence, don't be stupid. Tate shook his head. But you have a better chance than Serena did. At least in your case, you probably won't end up with your head separated from your neck. Riley's face went pale. But you'll feel the after effects anyway, Tate continued. Noah will break your heart. Tate. Loving Noah is the problem, and it isn't because I sleep with him. You're going to get hurt. Noah has dated a lot of men, it never works. Riley's jaw tightened. And if you stand near me, you're going to get hurt somehow, maybe not physically, maybe financially, maybe emotionally, perhaps socially, but something will happen. Tate gestured toward Riley. You're a PR executive. I'm the worst possible PR disaster you could ever attach yourself to. If my reputation gets ruined, you won't have a business left to protect. He paused, his expression turning cold. You want your name associated with me, with the social pariah. Riley stared at him. Tate leaned back against the desk. Think carefully before you decide that being close to Noah is worth being close to me. Riley huffed. I can't make you stay away from Noah, Tate said. I'm telling you to walk away now while you still have something to walk away to. people who get intimately involved with me, my name ruins their lives, and I don't have to do anything. Riley stared at him. You have no idea who I am, and you have no idea what you're walking into. Didn't your mother ever tell you to leave the rich alone? So if you have any self-preservation, any survival instinct whatsoever in that scrawny little body of yours, you'll waddle out the front door and forget Noah's number. Riley's eyebrows shot up. Who are you calling scrawny? Tate looked at him. You. I'm not scrawny. You aren't. I'm standing right here. I noticed. Riley gave him an incredulous look. You're threatening to destroy my career, and somehow you've decided my body type is the important part of this conversation. Tate's mouth twitched. I'm trying to make a point. You're doing a terrible job. I'm the worst possible karma you could ever get, Tate continued, apparently deciding to ignore him. If you attach yourself to Noah, every time a select group of very informed, wealthy people hear your name, a certain unpleasant topic is going to pop into their minds. Riley frowned. What topic? The things I represent to these people. Riley waited. Tate continued, completely serious. And it isn't the kind of topic that makes people want to eat after they realize who you are and who you know. Riley stared at him. These people vomit when I come up in conversation, Tate clarified. Riley blinked. Did you just compare yourself to vomiting? Yes. That's possibly the strangest warning anyone has ever given me. It's an accurate one. Riley rubbed his forehead. Tate wasn't smiling. That was the problem. You want to be near me when your name becomes synonymous with mine? Tate asked. Do you want your business to be utterly destroyed because people don't want to think about you because thinking about Riley Shore reminds them of me? Riley's expression slowly became more serious. My business isn't a joke. I know. I've spent years building it. I know. I have clients, employees, investors, relationships. I know. And you're telling me all of that could disappear because I married Noah. I'm telling you that association has consequences. Riley studied him. Consequences with whom? Tate's expression hardened. A very particular group of very rich people. The people you grew up with. Yes. The people with money. Yes. The people who care about social reputation. Yes. Riley nodded slowly. So basically, you're telling me there's an entire ecosystem of wealthy people who hear your name and immediately decide they don't like whoever is standing next to you. That's one way of putting it. That's an insane way to live. It's my life. Riley couldn't argue with that. Tate continued. Many of the rich people I used to know, when they hear the name Lunas or Blue, they're not going to want to shake your hand. Riley's face tightened. Blue. Yes. Your family name. Yes. And you think they'll actually avoid me because I'm associated with you? I don't think. Tate looked directly at him. I know. Riley was quiet. He imagined walking into a room filled with people he'd spent years cultivating relationships with, investors, executives, clients, society figures, people who could make or break a contract with a handshake. Then he imagined someone whispering his name. That's Noah's fiancée. That's a Tate Blues connection. He hated that he could already imagine the looks. Not necessarily fear. Not necessarily disgust. Something worse. Reluctance. People deciding not to return his call, invitations disappearing, meetings suddenly becoming inconvenient, clients deciding they didn't want controversy anywhere near their brands. Riley swallowed. You really believe your name carries that much weight? Tate didn't hesitate. I don't have to believe it, I've watched it happen. Riley looked down for a moment. Then he looked back at him. And you think I'm supposed to walk away from Noah because a bunch of rich people might not like me? No. Tate's voice softened. I'm telling you that if you stay, you need to understand what you're choosing and what I represent. Riley stared at him. For all of Tate's arrogance, there was something different underneath his words now, something almost weary. He wasn't boasting. He was warning him. Riley still didn't know whether Tate was exaggerating the danger or genuinely trying to protect him. But he knew one thing. Tate believed every word he was saying. Riley finally shook his head. You know what? What? I still don't like you calling me scrawny. Tate stared at him. Riley's mouth twitched despite himself. You could be threatening the complete destruction of my professional reputation, but I'm going to remember the scrawny comment. For the first time, Tate actually laughed. Fine. Good. But you're still scrawny. Riley rolled his eyes. I'm starting to understand why Noah needs me around. Tate's smile disappeared. Don't push your luck. Riley smiled faintly. There you are. Tate picked up his mobile and punched in a New York City number. He put the phone on speaker and waited. Yeah, a man answered on the other end. Who is this? Wayne. There was a brief pause. Hey fuckboy, it's not your birthday, why are you calling me? Tate glanced at Riley. Noah is engaged. Silence. Then Wayne's voice came through the speaker again, suddenly much more alert. Excuse me. Noah is engaged, Tate repeated. To who? Tate looked at Riley. Riley. Another silence. Well, Wayne finally said, I leave you alone for 5 minutes and Noah gets engaged. Tate sighed. This isn't funny. Because sooner or later you're going to get hit by a car. There was a pause. Or the truth will hit you first. Riley's face went still. Wayne laughed softly. Whichever one doesn't kill you, then you'll wish it did. The line went quiet. Riley slowly looked at Tate. What the hell does that mean? Tate rubbed his forehead. Wayne has always been dramatic. Wayne immediately shouted through the speaker, I'm not being dramatic, Tate. Tate closed his eyes. Riley stared at him. Apparently, neither of you are going to let me have a normal morning. Wayne kept laughing. Better keep your shoes on in case you have to run, Riley, he said. And don't fall asleep around Tate, if you know what I mean. Don't misunderstand, Tate's not a killer. Well, at least he's not. You stand a better chance than anyone else I know. You're lucky you met Noah in 1996 because if you met him earlier than that you would definitely be dead by now. Riley frowned. What exactly is that supposed to mean? Wayne laughed again. Does the blonde cunt you snuggle with at night still not know? Riley glanced at Tate. Know what? Wayne chuckled. It's more funny if you don't. He suddenly stopped. Wait a minute. There was a long silence. Wait, are you really engaged to Noah? Wayne's attention shifted completely toward Riley. Riley hesitated. Yeah, he said, why? Wayne went silent. Riley waited. Hello. Nothing. Wayne. Still nothing. Put Tate on the line and take it off speakerphone. Riley handed it to him. Tate lifted the phone to his ear, and Riley watched his expression change almost immediately. He couldn't hear what Wayne was saying, but Tate's jaw clenched. His entire demeanor changed. Whatever Wayne had just said, it wasn't a joke anymore. Tate stared straight ahead, listening in silence. Riley watched him carefully. Tate. Tate didn't respond. His grip tightened around the phone. 5 minutes later, Tate put the phone back on speaker. You're on speakerphone, Wayne, so watch what you say. Wayne was still laughing in the background. What kind of job do you have, Squirt? Riley frowned. I'm an entertainment PR representative. Wayne immediately started laughing again. Wait a minute, you help protect celebrities and wealthy people's images. Yes. That's perfect. Wayne laughed even harder. Out of all the people Noah could have become involved with, he ends up with a PR representative. Riley glanced at Tate. Wayne was still laughing. Riley finally spoke. Would being with Noah affect my business? The laughter stopped. There was a long pause. You do well, Wayne said. Riley's expression tightened. Most people don't know what I know, Wayne continued, and I wouldn't let any of my friends anywhere near you. I wouldn't shake your hand. Riley swallowed. Why? Because if you spend time with Tate, they wouldn't touch you with a 6-foot stick. Riley stared at the phone. Wayne's voice had lost all of its humor. You don't understand the world you're stepping into, he said. Your entire profession is built around reputation. You spend your life making sure people don't associate your clients with the wrong things. Riley looked toward Tate. Wayne continued. And now you're about to become associated with Tate Blue. Riley's stomach tightened. Is that really bad? Wayne gave a short laugh. Squirt, you have no idea. Tate remained silent. Riley noticed. That silence bothered him more than anything Wayne had said. Because Tate wasn't correcting him. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't telling Wayne he was exaggerating. He was just standing there listening. And Riley suddenly wondered how many people had already learned exactly what Wayne was warning him about. Wayne was quiet for a moment thinking. As long as I'm the only one who knows, you should have a very mediocre business. Riley frowned. Excuse me. I wouldn't let any of my friends or anyone I respect anywhere near you, Wayne continued. I'd make sure they stayed away from you and your business. You might lose 20% of your business. Riley's expression tightened. 20%. Maybe more, depends on how much I keep away from you. Riley glanced at Tate. Wayne continued. But if Chernobyl happens and everyone finds out? He paused. You might as well be a homeless person. Riley stared at the phone. Wayne's voice became almost matter-of-fact. Trust me, when people want a good reputation, the last person they're going to want to hire is somebody who's married to, related to, or even remotely connected to Tate Blue. Wayne laughed. Riley swallowed. You're saying people would actually refuse to hire me? Yes. Because of Tate. Because of what people associate with Tate. Riley looked at Tate again. Tate hadn't moved. He looked almost bored, but Riley could see the tension in his jaw. And you know all of this because... Wayne laughed softly. Because I know people's secrets. That doesn't answer the question. No, Wayne said, it doesn't. Riley rubbed his palms against his trousers. For the first time, the threat wasn't abstract anymore, he could picture it. A client calling to cancel. A meeting mysteriously postponed. A potential partner deciding to go with another firm. Someone asking, isn't that the guy who's connected to Tate Blue? And then the silence that would follow. Riley looked at Tate. You knew this. Tate met his eyes. Yes. And you were going to let me walk into it without telling me. I've been telling you to leave all night. Riley's face hardened. You've been telling me I'm going to die. I was trying to get your attention. Wayne laughed through the speaker. See, that's Tate, always subtle. Riley looked down at the phone. I'm beginning to understand why you two are friends. We're not friends, Tate said. Wayne immediately replied, he's lying. Riley almost smiled. Almost. Then he remembered what Wayne had just said. 20%. Then everything. And suddenly this conversation didn't feel funny anymore. Wayne turned his attention back to Tate. So hot stuff, how have you been? Tate looked exhausted. Fuck you, Wayne. You wish, Wayne said, laughing. Riley glanced between Tate and the phone, already regretting being present for the conversation. How's the cunt? Wayne continued. Does he still warm your bed with his tight, warm, round little virgin ass? Tate's eyes narrowed. Wayne. Have you finally fucked him yet? Because it's been almost 20 years, man. Get on it or get off it, that's what I always say. Riley's eyes widened. He slowly looked at Tate. Tate looked back at him with an expression that clearly said don't. Wayne continued laughing. Wait a minute. There was a pause. I can tell by the syrupy sound in your voice, Tate, that you're happy. Tate's jaw clenched. You must have finally fucked him. Riley nearly choked. Tate closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead. You fucked Noah over for years and now you finally fucked him good and proper the right way. Well, good for you, Wayne said. What took you so long? Riley stared at Tate in stunned silence. Tate finally opened his eyes. Are you done? Not remotely. Wayne. What? I'm celebrating. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm celebrating a 20-year milestone. Riley looked at Tate. 20 years. Tate gave him a warning look. Riley immediately raised both hands. I didn't say anything. Wayne laughed again. Oh, Riley, you're going to have so much fun with these two. Riley shook his head. I already regret coming to brunch. You should, Wayne said cheerfully. Tate reached for the phone. Goodbye, Wayne. Wait. Tate ended the call. Silence filled the room. Riley slowly turned toward him. 20 years. Tate stared at him. Don't. Riley nodded. Okay. A beat passed. But I have questions. I know. And I'm probably going to ask them. I know. Riley looked toward the phone. Your friends are insane. Tate sighed. That's the nicest thing anyone has said about Wayne, he's not my friend. Tate rubbed a hand over his face, irritation written across his expression. Riley still didn't understand a word Tate was talking about. As I said earlier, if you marry Noah, you'll be introduced into my life, and trust me, you're a PR executive. You want to stay as far away from me as possible. Being near Noah means you'll be near me, and standing near me will ruin your life and your business. Riley stared at him. If you have any self-preservation at all, you'll get in your car and leave before Noah ruins your life. Tate, what the hell are you talking about? Anyone who stands too near me, Tate said quietly, their lives are affected. One way or another, I have something to do with it. Riley didn't understand. You didn't know, Tate continued. You didn't understand what you were getting yourself into. I don't hold that against you. Tate looked directly at him. But now that you do, stay away. Riley's jaw tightened. It's not in your best interest to get involved with Noah. You'll only get hurt, you'll embarrass yourself, and you'll be wasting your time. Riley stared at him. You really think that little of me? I think you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And you do. Yes. Riley let out a humorless laugh. Of course you do. Tate didn't react. The only reason you even got close to Noah, Tate continued, is because I was being selfless and stayed mostly out of his life. That finally made Riley's expression change. You're saying I only have a relationship with Noah because you allowed it. I'm saying that if I had wanted to interfere, you wouldn't have gotten this far. Riley stared at him for several seconds. That might be the most arrogant thing you've said tonight. It isn't arrogance if it's true. Riley shook his head. You don't get to decide whether Noah loves me, you don't get to decide whether I'm good enough for him, and you certainly don't get to rewrite our relationship as something that only exists because you stepped aside. Tate's eyes narrowed slightly. Riley stepped closer. If Noah chooses me, that's his choice, not yours, and if he chooses to marry me, you can hate the decision, question it, or refuse to support it, but you don't get to pretend I didn't earn my place in his life. For the first time, Tate was completely silent. Riley held his gaze. You may have known Noah longer than anyone, Riley said quietly, but that doesn't mean you know what he wants now. The answer came instantly. Riley stared at him. Tate leaned forward slightly against the desk. You know what happens if you marry Noah without my consent? Riley's jaw tightened. I don't need your consent. Tate ignored him. I'll have him removed from my mother's will. The room went still. Riley frowned. You can't do that. Yes, Tate replied calmly, I can. That's insane. That's a state law. Riley stared at him in disbelief. Tate continued as if he were discussing accounting structures. Everything tied to this family financially passes through approval systems controlled by me. He folded his hands lightly. Trust distributions, inheritance permissions, investment allocations. You're threatening Noah financially now. No, Tate corrected, I'm explaining consequences. That's manipulation. That's wealth. Riley scoffed openly. Tate's eyes narrowed slightly. My mother adores Noah emotionally, he admitted, but legally, she listens to me, everybody does eventually. You really think money gives you ownership over people? No, Tate's voice sharpened, I think money determines what happens to people. The sentence settled heavily into the room. Riley stared at him carefully now. Tate continued quietly. Any inheritance connected to this family through marriage, investment, or generational growth ultimately belongs to me structurally. That's disgusting. That's how wealthy families function. No, Riley replied firmly, that's how controlling families function. Tate ignored him again. As long as Noah holds portions of Joey's estate, he said calmly, he remains financially tied to this family. Riley blinked once. Wait. Tate sighed softly. Joey left substantial assets to me originally, he explained. I redirected portions of that inheritance to Noah. Riley frowned. Why? So he wouldn't depend on me directly. That answer caught Riley off guard. Tate noticed immediately. I didn't want financial control involved between us, Tate admitted quietly. I wanted him to be secure independently. Riley stared at him carefully now. That's surprisingly decent. Tate laughed softly under his breath. Don't sound too shocked. You've spent the last hour sounding like a mafia attorney. Fair. Silence lingered again. Then Tate's expression hardened once more. But independent money doesn't mean unrestricted access to this family permanently. Riley rubbed a hand across his face tiredly. You really planned every angle of Noah's life, didn't you? I planned for stability. You planned for possession. Tate ignored that. If Noah marries you without my approval, he said evenly, the allowances stop. Riley frowned. Allowances. The supplemental protections, financial support structures, family access, estate privileges. You mean the ways you keep him dependent? I mean the ways I keep his life comfortable. Riley shook his head again slowly. You really believe this is love? Tate's eyes locked onto his. It is love. No, Riley replied quietly, it's fear disguised as devotion. That visibly irritated Tate again. I am trying, he said carefully, to avoid becoming cruel about this. You already crossed that line. No, Tate leaned closer slightly, you haven't actually seen cruel yet. The study suddenly felt colder. I would cut Noah off without a second thought, that means you don't get anything. Riley stared at him. I know what gold diggers are, I know what people will do when they don't want to work hard for the life they have. My family's money is to be rerouted to family and you're not family, you're nowhere near family. Tate paused, looking Riley over. For one thing, you have the wrong hair color. Riley blinked. You're serious? Completely. Tate leaned back. I'm talking about family in sentiment, not legally. Noah is allowed to do whatever he wants with his own life. If he wants to marry you, that's his choice. Riley waited. But I'm not going to fund an interloper, an outsider, someone who walks into my family and expects to benefit from everything we've built. I never asked for your money. Good. Tate's expression remained firm. Then you won't have a problem when I make sure you never see a penny of it. Riley swallowed once but held his ground. You would really socially destroy somebody over Noah. Tate answered immediately. Yes. No hesitation. No shame. Just certainty. Riley stared at him in disbelief. You're admitting that openly. I'm a powerful man, Tate said quietly, influential, wealthy, connected. His eyes sharpened slightly. There's very little I couldn't do if sufficiently motivated. That's supposed to impress me. No, Tate's voice lowered, it's supposed to warn you. The silence afterward felt suffocating. Then Riley finally asked, what exactly do you think happens if Noah chooses me anyway? Something dangerous flickered behind Tate's eyes. I don't let people take the only thing I've ever loved. The rawness in the sentence briefly stunned Riley quiet. Tate looked almost angry at himself for saying it aloud. Then he straightened again immediately. Cold composure returning. I'm done discussing emotions now. Riley stared at him warily. Tate slid the blank check across the desk one final time. So let's finish this practically. I already told you no. You haven't heard the final offer. I don't care about your money. Then care about your future. Riley said nothing. Tate's expression hardened completely now. Decide what compensates you for leaving Noah. Silence. Money. Nothing. Assets. Nothing. Career advancement. Nothing. Property. Nothing. Travel. Nothing. Connections. Nothing. Tate's jaw tightened further with each unanswered option. Then quietly. Or continue this engagement and force me into becoming a problem in your life. Riley looked genuinely exhausted now. You hear how terrifying you sound, right? Tate's expression never changed. You hear how serious I am, right? The room fell silent again. Then Tate pointed calmly toward the study door. So decide what you want. Riley didn't move. Tate's eyes narrowed slightly. Take the settlement, he said quietly, and go build a happy little life somewhere far away from this family. Riley stared at him. And if I refuse? Tate's voice became frighteningly calm. Then you're choosing a fight over the only person I've ever loved. The silence afterward lasted several seconds. Then Tate finished coldly. And trust me, Riley, you do not want that. Tate stared directly into Riley's eyes across the desk. Cold. Focused. Controlled in a way that somehow felt more threatening than yelling would have. Then quietly. All I have to do is pick up that phone. Riley's jaw tightened slightly. Tate gestured lazily toward the antique phone sitting at the far end of the desk. One call, he continued calmly, and you'll spend the rest of your life collecting unemployment. Riley scoffed faintly. You really think you're that powerful? I know exactly how powerful I am. That's arrogance. That's infrastructure. The answer came instantly. Tate folded his hands together. Nobody in all 50 states would touch you professionally if I decided they shouldn't. That's insane. That's networking. You sound like a dictator. Tate shrugged faintly. Wealthy people just use cleaner language for control. Riley stared at him carefully now. Tate's voice lowered slightly. I could bury you financially without ever laying a hand on you. The words landed heavily in the room. Every portfolio connection, every growth opportunity, every recommendation, Tate tilted his head slightly, gone. You're threatening my livelihood because I love somebody. No, Tate corrected, because you touched something you had no business touching. Riley's expression hardened instantly. Noah is not your property. Tate ignored the interruption completely. I don't care about you, Riley. The bluntness of it sounded almost casual. I don't particularly wish you harm, Tate shrugged faintly, but I don't wish you well either. Riley laughed sharply under his breath. Good to know. You became relevant to me solely because Noah attached himself to you. That's called a relationship. That's called interference. Riley shook his head slowly in disbelief. Tate continued calmly. You walked into a situation you fundamentally do not understand. And you think threatening me proves your point. No, Tate's eyes darkened slightly. I think it proves yours. Riley frowned. Tate leaned forward slightly now, voice quieter. You know what your problem is. What? You still think I'm exaggerating. The study fell silent again. Then Tate's expression changed slightly. Not angrier. Worse. More distant. You have absolutely no idea how vivid my imagination can become when I'm angry. Riley visibly stiffened. Tate noticed immediately. And before you start acting horrified, Tate continued coolly, relax, I'm not talking about hurting you. That's difficult to believe right now. I know exactly what kind of person you think I am. And what kind is that? A violent rich psychopath. Riley didn't answer. Which answered enough. Tate laughed quietly under his breath. You know what's funny, he asked softly, you're not entirely wrong. Riley stared at him cautiously now. Tate's eyes sharpened slightly. There isn't much in this world I haven't seen, his voice lowered further, or done. Riley's stomach tightened at the implication. Tate continued before he could respond. I know exactly what kind of acts people convince themselves are acceptable in the name of love. Tate. Mr. Blue. Riley rolled his eyes tiredly, seriously. You're still in my study. Riley exhaled sharply through his nose. Tate's face remained unreadable. And if I ever find out, Tate continued quietly, that somebody is harming Noah emotionally or physically under the disguise of affection, he tilted his head slightly, then we're going to have a problem. You keep talking like you're his protector. I am his protector. That landed harder than Riley expected. Tate went completely still. Then smiled faintly. Not warmly. You know, he said softly, the last person who tried separating Noah from me said something very similar. A cold feeling settled into Riley's stomach. He immediately regretted asking. What happened to them? Tate looked at him silently for several seconds. Then quietly. I'll give you a clue. The room suddenly felt suffocatingly still. Imagine everybody wearing black. Riley's face tightened immediately. Imagine flowers. Tate's voice remained calm. Imagine crying. Riley stared at him in horror now. You're lying. Tate shrugged faintly. Believe whatever helps you sleep tonight. You're sick. Possibly, but I don't have the power to control cancer. You're threatening murder now. Tate rolled his eyes dramatically. Oh, please, he waved a dismissive hand. My Uncle Joey tried to separate us or talk Noah into putting distance between us, then he later died of cancer. If I were confessing to homicide, this conversation would be happening with attorneys present. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. Silence crashed into the room again. Riley looked genuinely unsettled now. Tate noticed every second of it. Then quietly, anyone who wishes Noah harm, Tate's expression darkened slightly, or tries coming between us eventually discovers I become a little unstable. A little. Tate smirked faintly. You really don't want me emotionally motivated against you. You need psychiatric help. Probably. And Noah should run. That visibly irritated Tate instantly. He won't. You sound very sure. I know him. You know how to manipulate him. Tate laughed softly. You still think manipulation explains everything. What else explains this? Tate looked genuinely thoughtful for a moment. Then, love mixed with abandonment issues and too much money. Despite everything, Riley almost laughed once at the honesty. Almost. I have untreated borderline personality disorder with occasional bouts of BPD rage and psychosis, Tate said. Riley's expression changed. And if you print that or tell anyone I have it, you will be sorry. The threat was unmistakable, but Tate's voice remained remarkably calm. Nobody except my family knows about it because it could compromise my business. I get a little crazy when I think people are abandoning me, a little fatal attraction if you know what I mean. Riley flinched. Tate noticed but continued. Noah, he said, is my main source of comfort for my mental disorder and emotional isolation as a rich man, my security blanket. I want him returned to me in good health and in prime condition, understood? Riley stared at him. But if you promise not to interfere with our relationship and I have access to him at night, I may consider allowing you to marry him. Riley blinked. Did you just ask me for visitation rights to my fiancée? Tate looked at him. I'm trying to compromise. You're negotiating custody of a grown man. I prefer to think of it as maintaining a reasonable arrangement. Riley shook his head in disbelief. Tate, Noah isn't a security blanket. He is to me. He's a person. I'm aware. And he gets to decide where he sleeps. Tate paused. Yes. Riley stared at him. That tiny concession somehow felt more significant than everything else Tate had said. So if Noah chooses me, Riley said carefully, you'll accept it. Tate's expression hardened. If Noah chooses you, I will accept Noah's decision. Riley waited. But I don't have to like it. No, Riley said, I suppose you don't. And I reserve the right to complain. Riley almost laughed. Apparently that's the part you're best at. Tate smiled. I'm only asking for physical access to Noah and I like to sleep next to him after we've been intimate after a few rounds of fucking. That's not too much to ask. You said you don't have a traditional, exclusive relationship and that you have sex with other men. I don't see what the problem is. Riley stared at him, completely stunned. The problem, Riley said slowly, is that you're talking about my fiancé like I'm supposed to schedule him around you. Tate shrugged. I'm asking for a compromise. You're asking for an arrangement most people would consider completely insane. Most people don't understand Noah and me. Riley sighed. That much I've figured out. Tate smiled. When I was in college at Brown University, Tate said, Noah became unhappy because I had too many lovers and too many superfluous things competing for my attention. I allowed all of those distractions to take priority over his feelings and his little blonde needs. Riley stared at him, and what did you do after he told you he was leaving? Tate's expression hardened. I destroyed my phone. Riley blinked. You what? I destroyed it, then I deleted every contact I had. You erased everyone. Everyone. Tate leaned back, his voice quiet but absolute. If my little blonde rascal isn't happy, if he feels replaced or believes he's become less important to me emotionally, then everyone else gets cast out of my life. I don't care who they are. Riley shook his head slowly. That's extreme. Perhaps. Tate didn't sound particularly concerned. Noah is very self-conscious. He doesn't have much self-esteem and his confidence isn't exactly indestructible. Sometimes he feels replaced. Sometimes he feels like someone else has become more important than he is, and when he feels that way, there isn't anything I wouldn't do to make him feel secure again. He paused. No lover, no affair, no cheap moment in some hotel room is worth Noah being unhappy. None of it. Tate looked toward the floor for a moment before continuing. I can replace lovers, I can replace distractions, I can replace a phone full of contacts. What I cannot replace is Noah. His voice softened. So, if I have to choose between everyone else and making sure that little blonde man knows he matters to me, the choice isn't difficult. Riley studied him. You really mean that? Tate looked up. Every word. Tate tried to explain himself. I haven't had a lover in at least 5 years, minimum. Riley looked at him skeptically. Why? Because lovers make Noah uncomfortable, even when we're nothing more than platonic buddies. Noah has always prioritized romantic and sexual relationships over platonic bonds. Whenever someone has romantic or sexual access to me, he assumes I'm going to choose that person over the affection and connection we have with each other. Tate paused, searching for the right words. I've been with people since I graduated from college, Riley. I'm not saying I haven't, but I've never had a lover, not in the sense that the word actually means. I've never needed someone enough, wanted someone enough, or built my life around someone enough for them to earn that title. His expression softened when he said Noah's name. Noah's need to feel important to me takes precedence over everything else now that our relationship has changed. I don't want him walking around thinking he's competing with someone. There is no competition. Tate gave a quiet laugh. I've been with a lot of women, Riley. I've tasted every kind of fruit imaginable, forbidden or otherwise. None of that is particularly rare to me anymore. He leaned back. Noah is. Riley said nothing. Tate continued, his voice quieter now. He's a rare find, and I'd rather have his emotional attention than have a wife, a girlfriend, or some temporary guest in my room. Those things are easy to find. What Noah gives me isn't. He looked directly at Riley. So, if I have to choose between another romantic relationship and keeping Noah secure in what we are to each other, there isn't really a choice. For the last 20 years, people have assumed Noah is my bed warmer, Tate said. A convenience, something that helps me stay warm at night and makes me feel like a rich man with everything he could possibly want. He shrugged. I let people think whatever they want to think. Tate smiled faintly. I'm the lucky one when it comes to sleeping in the same bed as Noah. He's a warm little toaster that keeps me warm each night, but that isn't the main reason why he sleeps with me. Riley studied him carefully. Then why does he? Tate's expression changed. Noah provides me with a service that nobody knows about, not even Noah. What kind of service? That, Tate said quietly, is between me and Noah. He paused before continuing. I will fight anyone who tries to take away my access to him. I do everything I can, every day that I'm awake, to persuade Noah to let me lie beside him at night. I don't take that privilege for granted. As long as Noah allows my presence near him, I strive to be worthy of that distinction. I wouldn't force Noah to keep me around if he wasn't pleased that I was there. Riley raised an eyebrow. You're saying you negotiate your entire life around where Noah sleeps. I'm saying that anything affecting where Noah sleeps at night gets my attention. Tate's voice became almost matter-of-fact. There isn't much I wouldn't do to make him amenable to what I need, not because he's my possession, because what happens between us matters to me more than anyone realizes. He looked toward Riley. People think they're looking at a man who has everything. Tate smiled. They have no idea what I'm actually trying to hold on to. You're too possessive, Riley said. You want his time. Tate shook his head. I permit Noah to have almost a dozen friends. He goes out, he has interests, he visits our gallery and takes part in charities. I let him have all of those things because he doesn't take too much advantage of his freedom. Riley watched him carefully. He doesn't leave, Tate continued. He comes home, or at least I know where he is, so if I need to I can go find him. That doesn't sound like freedom. It is to Noah. Tate's voice softened. I always want access to Noah. and if you want to marry him, you'll have to understand that. Tate reached across his desk and picked up a small blue plush pig. Riley recognized it immediately from the way Tate handled it. It wasn't just an object. Noah had given it to him when they were children. Tate ran his fingers slowly over the pig's snout, his expression changing as memories seemed to pass through him. He held it close for a moment, then pressed a gentle kiss to its snout before carefully returning it to its place on the desk. Riley watched silently. It was the first time all evening that Tate had done something without trying to intimidate him, negotiate with him, or explain himself. For a brief moment, he simply looked like a boy who had been given something precious by the person he loved most in the world. Riley's expression softened. He finally understood that beneath all of Tate's wealth, arrogance, threats, and impossible demands was something much simpler. Tate was terrified of losing Noah. "That's a cute little schnauzer," Riley said, reaching over and picking up the blue pig from Tate's desk. He turned it over in his hands. "Why is the pig blue?" Riley looked at Tate. "Aren't pigs supposed to be pink?" He waited for Tate to answer. Tate stared at him for a moment. Then he leaned forward, roughly snatched the pig from Riley's hands, dusted it off with exaggerated care, and placed it firmly back on his desk. "Stop touching my things," Tate said sharply, "and don't ask stupid questions about pig colors." Riley blinked. "I was just asking." "I know. It's a blue pig." "Yes. So I was curious." Tate gave him an irritated look. "It was a gift from Noah." Riley glanced at the pig again. That explained everything. Apparently, there were rules in Tate's office that had nothing to do with logic. "I have a question," Riley said. Tate looked at him warily. "Is the pig blue because of your last name? Isn't it weird that your favorite color is basically your last name, just spelled differently?" Riley noticed Tate scowling at him. "My favorite color is blue," Tate said. "I figured. Noah made it special for me from a catalog. He gave it to me when we were 7 years old." Riley looked at the little blue pig. 7. Yes. Tate's expression softened slightly. "He picked it because he knew I liked blue. It was something small, but Noah thought I would like it." Riley nodded slowly. "And you've kept it all these years?" Tate gave him a look as though the answer should have been obvious. "Of course." Riley glanced at the pig again. Suddenly, the ridiculous little blue pig didn't seem ridiculous at all. As Tate raised his voice, the little blue pig toppled over onto its side. Tate immediately looked down at it. Riley burst out laughing. "He shouldn't have left," Tate muttered. He picked up the pig, gave it a few playful swats on the backside, then carefully returned it to its place on display. Riley was still laughing. "You're actually serious about that pig?" Tate looked at him. "Very." Riley shook his head. "I've never seen anyone get that offended over a stuffed animal." "You don't understand." "Apparently not." Tate straightened the pig one last time, making sure it was positioned exactly the way he wanted. "There," he said. Riley smiled. "Perfect. Now stop touching my things." "Did you name the pig?" Riley asked. He pointed toward the little blue oinker. "What did you name him?" Tate looked at him. "Noe." Riley burst out laughing. "Noe." "Yes." "What kind of stupid name is that?" Tate glared at him. Riley's laughter slowly faded. "What?" Tate pointed at the pig. "Noe is named after Noah. It's a childhood sentimental nickname I gave him. That's the pig's name too." Riley blinked. "You named a pig after Noah?" "Noah named him." "Oh." Riley looked at the little blue pig again. Tate's glare remained fixed on him. Riley cleared his throat. "I take back the stupid part." "You should." Tate rubbed the pig's belly, and the little blue oinker let out a loud mechanical oink. Riley looked up, staring at it as it continued to squeak. "It actually oinks." Tate gave him a look. "Of course it does." Riley watched as Tate rubbed its belly again. "Oink." Riley shook his head, amused. "You two really have a collection of stuffed pigs, don't you?" "Noah has one," Tate explained. "His is green." Riley looked at him. "Of course it is." Tate ignored the comment. Riley pointed toward the blue pig. Tate rubbed the pig's belly, and it let out a loud mechanical oink. Riley looked up, staring at the little blue pig as it continued to squeak. Does it just keep doing that? Tate ignored him. Riley looked at him. What did Noah name his pig? Tay. Riley stared at Tate. Tay. Yes. Riley looked at the blue pig, then back at Tate. So your pig is Noe and Noah's pig is Tay. Tate nodded. Riley started laughing. That's adorable, you two even gave your stuffed pigs matching names. Should I be worried that the pigs have a more organized relationship than we do? Tate scowled. They're not a couple. Riley pointed at the pig. Then why does yours look like it's waiting for Tay to come home? Tate's expression darkened. Don't start. Riley grinned. I'm just saying, if those pigs ever get married, I assume you'll object to the wedding. Tate rubbed Noe's belly again. Oink. Riley laughed. Even Noe thinks that's funny. Tate slammed his fist on the desk. Riley immediately stopped laughing. Tay and Noe are our nicknames for each other, Tate said angrily. When we were little toddlers, I won't have you making fun of it. Riley stared at him. Only Noah and I use those names. Riley's expression changed. Oh. Tate glared at him. Riley glanced down at the little blue pig, then back at Tate. I didn't know. Now you do. Riley nodded slowly. Okay, I understand. Tate remained tense. I wasn't trying to make fun of you, Riley said. I thought you were just being sentimental about a stuffed pig. I am sentimental about it. I can see that. Riley looked at the pig again. So Noe is what you have called Noah since you were toddlers? Yes. And Tay is what Noah calls you? Yes. Riley nodded. That's actually kind of sweet. Tate's expression softened slightly. Riley held up his hands. And I won't make jokes about the names anymore. Tate continued staring at him. Seriously. A pause. Riley glanced at the pig. I may still make jokes about the fact that the pig oinks. Tate sighed. Riley. I'm stopping. Riley smiled faintly. I promise. Tate looked back at Noe and carefully straightened the little pig on his desk. Riley watched him for a moment. Whatever those names meant to Tate and Noah, Riley finally understood that they belonged to a part of their relationship that existed long before he had ever met either of them. And he wasn't going to touch it again. Tate kept rubbing the oinker's belly. The little pig responded with another series of mechanical oinks. Riley watched amused. Then, with a tiny click, a small hatch opened on the pig's side and a jelly bean dropped out. Tate immediately picked it up and ate it. Riley stared. Wait, it dispenses candy too. Tate nodded as if this were perfectly ordinary. Riley laughed. That's pretty cute. He looked at the blue pig, then back at Tate. How come your pig is blue and Noah's is green? Because those are our favorite colors, Tate said. Riley smiled. So you picked blue for yourself and green for Noah. Tate shook his head. We each gave the other our pig. Riley paused. You gave Noah yours. Yes. And Noah gave you yours. Yes. Tate looked down at the little blue pig. Noah has mine and I have Noe's. He said it with obvious irritation, as though Riley should have understood that from the beginning. Riley's expression softened. So you each have the pig the other one picked out for you. Yes. Riley nodded slowly. That's actually really sweet. Tate gave him an annoyed look. It's not supposed to be cute. Riley smiled. Sure. Tate rubbed the pig's belly again. Oink. Riley laughed. I think the pig disagrees with you. Tate sighed and reached for another jelly bean. Tate pulled the pig's tail. A Jolly Rancher suddenly dropped out of its mouth and landed on the desk. Riley stared at it. You've got to be kidding me. Tate picked up the candy and set it beside the pig. Riley looked from the candy dispenser to Tate. So it dispenses jelly beans and Jolly Ranchers. Tate ignored him. Then he reached into his desk drawer, pulled out his checkbook and began writing. Now take the money, I'll write you a check and you can leave. Riley looked at the checkbook, then at Tate. Thank you. Tate slid the check toward him. Riley didn't touch it. But no thanks. Tate stopped. You're refusing the money. Yes. Why? Because I didn't come here for your money. Tate stared at him. Riley pushed the checkbook gently back across the desk. I came here because I'm engaged to Noah. Tate's expression hardened. And I'm telling you that being engaged to Noah comes with me attached to the relationship. Riley nodded. I figured that out. He stood. But I'm not leaving because you wrote me a check. Tate leaned back in his chair. Then you're either very brave or very stupid. Riley smiled faintly. Probably a little of both. Tate looked at the blue pig sitting between them. The little oinker remained completely silent. For once, even Noe seemed to have nothing to say. Tate pulled on the pig's ear, and a thin mint suddenly fell out of its nose. Riley stared at it. Tate looked completely unfazed. Then we have nothing more to say to each other, Tate said. You can leave without the money. Riley looked at the little blue pig, then at Tate. I think that pig has had more to say to me tonight than you have. Tate glared at him. Riley smiled. I'm leaving. Do you love Noah? Riley asked. Or do you just use him for his body warmth and to stroke your own ego? Tate laughed. You really are a mouthy houseguest. He leaned back in his chair, studying Riley. I'm utterly devoted to the little blonde rascal. Riley's expression changed slightly. I would only cut Noah off from his inheritance and his monthly trust fund so you don't get the money. I don't want poor people thinking they can get a leg up by being with Noah. Riley frowned. You actually think I'm marrying him for his money? I assume that anyone who wants to marry Noah wants his money. That's insulting. It's cautious. Tate shrugged. You may be a decent person, but I'm not going to take the risk and believe it, not when Noah is involved. Riley stared at him. So what happens if I don't take your money and I don't listen to your warnings? Tate's smile disappeared. If you won't take the money and you won't listen to a phone call warning you to stay away, there's only one more thing I can do. Riley's expression tightened. What? Riley still stood near the door, tense and exhausted from the endless conversation, while Tate looked at him with growing irritation beneath the surface calm. Riley's stomach tightened instinctively. What does that mean? Tate didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer. Riley frowned and instinctively backed up once. Tate. Mr. Blue. Oh my God, Riley snapped tiredly, stop correcting me. Tate laughed softly under his breath. Then suddenly, he grabbed Riley by the front of his shirt and yanked him forward. What the hell? Before Riley could properly react, Tate French kissed him. Hard. Aggressive. Not affectionate. Possessive. Riley froze instantly in complete shock. His brain barely processed what was happening before Tate shoved him backward against the wall beside the bookshelf. The impact startled Riley hard enough that he gasped against Tate's mouth. Tate. That's Mr. Blue. Tate kissed him again before he could finish. Like he was proving something. Testing something. If words wouldn't separate Riley from Noah, then maybe disgust would. Maybe scandal would. Maybe Noah discovering his fiancée tangled up with another man inside the Blue Mansion would finally shatter this fragile engagement. Riley remained too shocked to react immediately. Tate would argue. But Tate kept kissing him. One hand gripping Riley's wrist against the wall, while the other held his jaw firmly in place. The entire thing felt calculated. Cold. Deliberate. Not passion. Strategy. And somehow that made it worse. Then suddenly, the study door opened. Noah stepped inside. And froze. Complete silence crashed into the room. Noah's face lost all color instantly. For one horrible second, nobody moved. Tate still stood pressed against Riley. Riley looked horrified. And Noah stared at them like he physically could not understand what he was seeing. Tate. The word barely came out. More breath than voice. Tate slowly turned his head toward Noah. Riley immediately shoved Tate backward hard enough to break free. Noah, wait. What the hell is this? Noah's voice cracked sharply through the room. His expression looked devastated. Not angry first. Hurt first. Which somehow made everything worse. Noah, Riley started quickly, this isn't what it looks like. It looks like you were kissing him. Tate grabbed me. Noah looked at Tate immediately. Tate. Tate's expression remained unreadable, which only made Noah look more shaken. Tate, Noah repeated, quieter now. There was disbelief in his voice. Actual disbelief. Like some part of him genuinely expected Tate to laugh and explain this away somehow. Instead, Tate calmly adjusted his sleeve. We were talking. Noah stared at him like he'd gone insane. Talking. Riley looked furious now. He forced himself on me. Oh, please, Tate said. Everyone in town wishes they could have been you for a moment. That finally made Noah look fully at Riley again. What? Tate grabbed Noah's body and kissed him. Noah's breathing became uneven instantly. Tate. Tate shrugged slightly as the situation bored him already. I was testing something. Noah looked completely stunned. Testing what? You. The answer hit like a slap. Noah blinked once. Then again. What? Tate stepped away from the wall slowly. If Riley's so devoted to you, he said calmly, then I wanted to see how committed he actually was. Riley stared at him in disbelief. You are completely insane. Noah looked horrified now. Tate, what is wrong with you? Tate's jaw tightened slightly at Noah's tone. You're overreacting. I'm overreacting, Noah laughed sharply in disbelief. You just kissed my fiancé. Riley stepped forward immediately. Noah, I swear to God, I didn't do anything. I know, Noah said instantly. The immediate defense visibly irritated Tate. Noah looked shaken but certain. I know you wouldn't. Tate's eyes darkened slightly. Riley stared at Noah almost gratefully. But Noah still looked devastated. Mostly at Tate. You forced yourself on him, Noah asked quietly. The disappointment in his voice finally made Tate uncomfortable. It wasn't like that. How exactly was it then? Tate opened his mouth. Closed it again. Noah shook his head slowly. I cannot believe you. Tate's expression hardened immediately in response to the rejection. You're choosing him over me now. What? Noah looked genuinely stunned. Tate, this isn't about choosing anybody. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Riley looked between both men like he suddenly understood far more than he wanted to. Noah's voice became sharper now. You kissed my fiancé. And you ran to defend him immediately. That's because he didn't do anything wrong. Tate laughed once under his breath. Coldly. There it is. Noah stared at him in disbelief. You're unbelievable. Tate's composure finally cracked slightly. You think this is easy for me? Noah looked almost heartbroken now. No, Tate, he said quietly, I think you need help. The sentence hit harder than Riley expected. Tate visibly flinched. Only slightly. But no one noticed. And so did Riley. The room went painfully quiet again. Then Riley quietly grabbed his keys from the desk. I'm leaving. Noah immediately turned toward him. Riley, wait. I need to go. Noah, Tate said sharply. Don't, Noah snapped immediately without even looking at him. That stunned Tate silent. Riley looked overwhelmed now. His face was pale. His breathing is uneven. This is insane, he muttered. This entire family is insane. Then he walked quickly toward the study door. Noah followed immediately. Riley, wait please. But Riley kept walking. Down the hallway. Down the stairs. Past the kitchen where Talia looked up in confusion from the sink. Riley. No answer. The front doors opened violently. Cold night air rushed inside. Noah caught up just outside beneath the enormous front portico. Riley. Riley turned finally. His face looked shaken. No, I can't do this today. I swear I didn't know he was going to. I know. Noah stopped. Riley looked emotionally exhausted. But I can't stay here right now. Behind Noah, Tate appeared silently in the doorway again. Watching. Noah saw him immediately and turned furiously. Go away. Tate's expression darkened slightly. Noah. I said go away. Talia appeared behind Tate, now looking alarmed and confused. What is happening? Nobody answered her. Riley backed toward his car. No, I'll call you tomorrow. Riley, please don't leave like this. But Riley was already opening the driver's side door. His hand shook slightly. Noah looked devastated now. Tate didn't mean anything, Noah said quickly. He's just obsessed with you, Riley said quietly. Noah froze. The silence afterward said too much. Riley gave a weak, disbelieving laugh. Then got into the car. The engine started. Headlights swept across the massive estate. And seconds later, Riley drove down the long, winding driveway and disappeared into the night, leaving Noah standing frozen beneath the portico. While behind him, Tate watched silently from the doorway. Noah stood beneath the portico long after Riley's headlights disappeared beyond the gates. The warm air hit his face, but it did nothing to cool the humiliation burning through him. Talia had quietly retreated toward the kitchen after one tense look between her son and Noah, clearly realizing whatever had happened upstairs had detonated into something ugly and personal. And Tate had simply walked away. Like he'd already won. That realization made Noah furious all over again. He shoved the front doors open hard enough for them to echo through the mansion and stormed down the hallway toward Terrence Blue's old study. The door was half open. Inside, Tate stood beside the desk with one hand in his pocket, looking entirely too calm. Worse. He looked satisfied. A faint smirk pulled at the corner of his mouth like the entire disaster had unfolded exactly the way he wanted. Riley was gone. Noah was alone again. And Tate clearly knew it. Noah slammed the study door behind him hard enough to rattle the bookshelves. The little pig that Riley had touched moments earlier fell off its perch due to Noah slamming the door. How dare you? Tate slowly looked up. There wasn't even guilt on his face. Just annoyance at being interrupted. Noah. No, Noah pointed at him furiously. Do not Noah me right now. Tate exhaled slowly through his nose. You're dramatic when you're angry. You kissed my fiancée. Tate interrupted immediately. Yes, I think I gathered that from the screaming downstairs. Noah stared at him in disbelief. You think this is funny? No, Tate replied calmly. I think Riley's overrated. Noah blinked once. What? Tate shrugged casually. He's not particularly impressive. Noah looked genuinely speechless. He's not that talented, Tate continued with infuriating calm. You could do significantly better. The sheer audacity of the statement left Noah staring at him in horror. Not just anger anymore. Shock. Real shock. You are unbelievable. I've been called worse. You cannot just go around kissing people. The second the words left Noah's mouth, he realized how ridiculous they sounded. Considering Tate had cornered him upstairs barely 30 minutes earlier. Tate noticed immediately. A smirk tugged at his mouth. That's an interesting argument coming from you. Noah groaned in frustration and dragged both hands through his hair. Oh my God. Then he turned away from Tate completely and dropped heavily into one of the leather chairs near the fireplace. His pulse still hadn't settled. Neither had the humiliation. We're engaged, Noah muttered, staring at the floor. Riley and I are getting married. Tate rolled his eyes. You keep repeating that like it's supposed to become more convincing. It's reality. No, Tate replied coldly, it's a phase. Noah snapped his head up immediately. A phase? Yes. You are out of your mind. Tate leaned casually against the desk. You're panicking about adulthood and trying to build a normal life because it feels safer than dealing with your actual emotions. Noah laughed sharply in disbelief. You sound insane. And you sound defensive. We are getting married, Noah repeated firmly. You kissing him is not going to change that. Tate's expression darkened slightly at the certainty in Noah's voice. Noah kept going. We all need to act like mature adults here. That made Tate laugh outright. A sharp, humorless sound. Mature, Tate repeated. Yes. Says the man, Tate drawled, who hid underneath his mother's dining table during brunch because he panicked when I walked into the room. Noah's face flushed instantly. That was different. Was it? Yes. Tate smirked faintly. You still hide when your emotions overwhelm you. Noah stood abruptly from the chair again. You know what, he snapped, I am genuinely disgusted with you right now. That sentence finally wiped the amusement off Tate's face. Good. Noah wanted him angry. You embarrassed Riley. Tate said nothing. You humiliated me. Still nothing. And for what? Noah demanded. Because you couldn't stand that I picked someone else. Tate's jaw tightened slightly. Noah noticed immediately. There it is, Noah said bitterly. That's what this is really about. Tate's voice dropped lower. You think I'm jealous. I think you're obsessed. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Noah turned his back toward Tate again, too irritated to keep looking at him. That stunt in this study was pathetic. Tate stared at him silently. Noah kept talking, anger making his words faster. You can't just sabotage my relationships every time you feel threatened. I don't feel threatened. Noah laughed sharply. You practically assaulted my fiancé because you couldn't handle him existing near me. Tate's eyes darkened instantly. That's not what happened. Then what happened? Tate pushed away from the desk slowly. You were making a mistake. That wasn't your decision to make. It becomes my decision when it affects me. Noah turned around immediately. That right there is the problem with you, he snapped. Everything has to revolve around what you want. Tate took another step closer. And what about you? What? You think you can just marry somebody and expect me to quietly disappear emotionally? I never asked you to disappear. No, Tate replied coldly, you just keep trying to replace me. Noah stared at him in disbelief. Nobody is replacing you. Really? Yes. Because from where I'm standing, Tate said quietly, you're trying very hard to build a life that doesn't include me anymore. The raw bitterness in his voice caught Noah off guard for half a second. Only half. Because he was still furious. That doesn't justify what you did. Tate didn't answer. Noah shook his head slowly. You crossed a line tonight. Silence. Then Tate said quietly. So did you. Noah frowned. What does that mean? You brought him here. The possessiveness hidden in the sentence immediately irritated Noah again. He's my fiancé. And this is my house. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. Noah stared at him as he'd finally lost patience completely. You know what, he muttered, you are exhausting. Then he turned again. Which was a mistake. Because the second Noah's back faced him, Tate moved. Fast. Before Noah could fully register what was happening, Tate grabbed him by the wrists and yanked him backward out of the chair. Noah. Tate, what are you? The rest of the sentence vanished when Tate pulled him flush against his chest and kissed him. Hard. Sudden. Overwhelming. Noah gasped in shock at his mouth immediately. Tate. But Tate kissed him again before Noah could pull away. Aggressive. Desperate. Like anger and panic and longing had all collided at once. Noah stumbled backward as Tate kept hold of him, one arm locked tightly around his waist while the other gripped the back of his neck possessively. Tate, we need to. You walked in here defending him, Tate muttered against his mouth. Noah shoved at his chest weakly. This is insane. And you still smell like me. What does that even mean? Tate kissed him again. Noah's brain felt completely scrambled now from shock and fury and years of emotional history crashing together at once. Tate, you were never this angry over anyone else. That is not the point. Tate's hands tightened slightly at Noah's waist. Yes, it is. Noah finally shoved hard enough to break one of Tate's grips and stumbled backward, breathing unevenly. His face was flushed bright red now. Part rage. Part shock. Part something he absolutely did not want to examine. You cannot do that. Tate stared at him intensely. But Riley can touch you whenever he wants. That's completely different. Why? Because he's my fiancé. Tate laughed softly under his breath. And I'm not. The answer made Noah visibly falter for a second. Which Tate noticed instantly. And Noah hated that he noticed. Tate had him pinned before Noah could even finish the thought. Tate kisses Noah. Scene retracted, red extended version on Wattpad. Tell me you don't want this, Tate challenged, still rutting against him. Look me in the eye and lie. Noah's lips parted, his breath came in ragged gasps, but before he could form a single word, Tate's hand dropped. Tate grabbed him by the shoulders and threw him forward. This isn't funny. Tate's expression softened slightly. No, he admitted quietly, it isn't. For a few seconds neither of them spoke. The rain outside grew heavier. Noah stared toward the dark windows of the study. I should go home. Tate immediately tightened his hold again. I'll drive you. Noah gave him an incredulous look. I am not going anywhere alone with you right now. Tate looked mildly offended. Why? Because somehow every time I'm alone with you lately, my life gets worse. Tate smirked faintly. Debatable. No, not debatable. Noah pushed lightly at Tate's shoulder. And absolutely not to my house. Tate raised an eyebrow. You think I'm going to kidnap you? I think you'd find some excuse to get through the front door and then suddenly we'd be arguing in my bedroom again. Tate, consider that. That does sound likely. Noah stared at him in disbelief. You're admitting that. I'm self-aware. You're a menace. Tate's mouth twitched slightly. We don't have to argue in the bedroom. Noah groaned loudly. Tate. What? You are unbelievable. Tate leaned back against the couch cushions, studying Noah carefully now that the anger had mostly burned away. Noah looked exhausted. Emotionally wrecked. His blonde hair was a mess, his face flushed from sleep and stress, and he still looked heartbreakingly vulnerable despite how angry he kept trying to stay. Tate's expression softened again before he could stop it. You're thinking too hard. I ruined everything. No, Tate said quietly, I ruined everything. Noah looked genuinely surprised by the admission. Tate looked away first. I shouldn't have kissed Riley. No, Noah said flatly, you really shouldn't have. And Tate stopped. For once, he actually seemed uncertain how to explain himself. Noah watched him carefully. Tate exhaled slowly. You were leaving me again. The honesty in the sentence landed heavily between them. Noah's anger faltered slightly. Tate. I know how that sounds. Insane. Yes. Noah rubbed tiredly at his eyes. You don't get to sabotage my relationships because you're scared. Tate didn't argue. Which somehow felt worse. I know. Silence settled again. Then Noah asked quietly. Did you really mean all that stuff you said to Riley? Tate's jaw tightened. Some of it. That's not comforting. I wasn't trying to comfort him. No, Noah muttered, you were trying to terrify him. Tate looked at Noah for several seconds. Then quietly. Did it work? Noah stared at him in disbelief. Oh my God. Tate sighed and leaned his head back against the couch. That's probably a yes. Noah shook his head slowly. You don't understand how frightening you can be when you decide you want something. Tate looked back at him immediately. I understand perfectly. That's the problem. Rain tapped steadily against the windows. Downstairs the mansion had gone quiet. Noah suddenly felt very tired again. Not sleepy. Just emotionally worn thin. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Tate watched him silently. Then quieter than before. Stay. Noah laughed softly in disbelief. Of course that's your solution. It's a good solution. No, it isn't. It is for me. Noah shook his head again, but there was no real anger left in it now. Only exhaustion. And Tate, watching him carefully in the dim study light, realized something dangerous. For the first time all day, Noah wasn't trying to leave immediately anymore. Noah finished buttoning his shirt with trembling hands and left the study without another word. Tate followed immediately. Once Noah got his shirt back on, he discovered he couldn't button it. Tate had managed to rip off half the buttons. Noah sighed as he pulled on his pants. Tate was a menace when it came to fashion. If he wasn't tearing Noah's clothes off, he was hiding them. Noah looked down at his shirt and shook his head. I swear you have a personal vendetta against my wardrobe. Tate grinned. Your clothes were in the way. My clothes are supposed to be on me. That's debatable. Noah sighed again. I'm going to need an entirely new wardrobe. Tate looked pleased with himself. I know. You're not paying for it. I already planned to. That isn't the point. Tate smiled. It usually is with me. When you move in with me, clothing in the house is optional, Tate said with a grin. No clothes for you. He smiled at Noah and tugged at the hem of Noah's shirt. Uff. I have to go, Noah said, laughing as he tried to pull his shirt back into place. Tate pouted. I haven't dismissed you yet. Noah looked at him. I have work. I haven't given you your annual report. My annual report. Tate nodded solemnly. Don't you want your biannual oral review? Noah stared at him for a moment before realizing exactly what Tate was doing. You're ridiculous. Tate straightened in his chair, suddenly adopting the stern demeanor of a corporate executive. You're the intern, I'm the boss, show some respect. Noah laughed. You're enjoying this way too much. Of course I am, now sit down, your performance review is overdue. Noah shook his head. This is the strangest workplace I've ever been employed by. And yet, Tate said with a smug smile, you keep coming back. Not right now, no, Noah said. I have a business meeting in 20 minutes, I need to get to it. Noah tried to walk away. Tate stretched out his foot, catching Noah just enough to make him stumble. Noah fell backward, landing safely in Tate's lap. I caught myself a Noe, Tate said with a grin. Noah looked at him incredulously. You tripped me. I caught you. You tripped me. Tate wrapped an arm around him, laughing. I caught myself a Noe. Noah shook his head. You're impossible. Tate leaned over and pressed a quick kiss to Noah's neck. I caught myself a Noe. Noah sighed, though he couldn't quite hide his smile. I really do have a meeting. I know. Then let me go. Tate smiled. In a minute. Tate completely wrapped himself around Noah, who was sitting in his lap like an octopus. In his best business voice, Tate said, I don't think I'm convinced that my new employee is going to do his job properly. I think I need to see your talents displayed in front of me. Noah laughed as Tate tugged playfully at his shirt. Tate. I'm conducting a performance review. You're impossible. Tate grinned, resting his chin against Noah's shoulder. Your meeting is in 20 minutes, plenty of time. No, there isn't. Tate kissed Noah's neck. Noah sighed. He already knew he wasn't going to make that business meeting on time. Tate had caught himself a Noe, and judging by the way he was holding onto him, there was absolutely no chance he was throwing his catch back into the lake. Talia was downstairs in the living room, quietly reading Forbes magazine. The house was strangely still. Normally, whenever Noah and Tate were arguing, laughing, or playing around upstairs, she could hear them, but now there wasn't a sound. Talia frowned and set down her magazine. Curious, she walked upstairs. As she approached the study, she heard a strange thumping sound coming from behind the door. She knocked. Nothing. Talia pressed the intercom button. Since the study was soundproof, she couldn't hear anything unless they used it. Honey, are you okay in there? 10 seconds passed. Then came Tate's very raspy, breathless voice, as though he'd just run 100 miles. I'm fine, Mother, leave me alone. Talia stared at the door. She raised an eyebrow. Maybe he was doing cardio. Who knew? She slowly walked back downstairs, deciding that some things were better left unexplained. Noah tried wiggling out of Tate's grasp while sitting in his lap, but it was useless. Tate seemed almost double-jointed, somehow managing to keep Noah exactly where he wanted him. I have a meeting, Noah said, trying to push Tate's face away. Tate ignored him, peppering Noah with affectionate kisses along his neck, cheek, ear, and forehead. I have to go. Tate tightened his arms around him, refusing to loosen his grip. Reschedule, Tate said matter-of-factly. No. Yes. Tate. Your boss has spoken. You're not my boss. I am today. Noah sighed. This is kidnapping. Tate smiled. Temporary employee retention. Noah rolled his eyes. You're ridiculous. And you're still here. Because you won't let me leave, Noah laughed. Exactly. Tate's strong arms wrapped tighter around Noah's waist and thighs, thick muscles pulsing as they dragged the struggling blonde back onto his lap. Noah's compact body twisted and bucked, hands shoving against Tate's chest, but Tate's arms only coiled harder. Stop fighting, Tate growled, mouth descending on Noah's neck. Noah and Tate have sex in a chair. Scene retracted, read extended version on Wattpad. Tate opened his eyes slowly from where he was sitting in his study chair. The first thing he saw was Noah getting dressed. Noah was pulling on his shirt, then his pants, and finally his flip-flops. Tate watched him in silence for a moment. "You're leaving?" Noah glanced over his shoulder. "Yes." Tate sighed dramatically. "You're actually leaving." "I have a meeting." Tate leaned back in his chair, looking personally offended by the concept. The mansion felt suffocating now, too warm, too quiet, too full of memories that blurred together with bad decisions and years of emotional dependency neither of them knew how to escape. By the time Noah shoved open the massive front doors, rain was pouring heavily across the estate grounds. Cold water immediately soaked through his hair and shirt as he walked down the stone steps toward the driveway. Behind him, Tate came out into the storm without hesitation. "Noah, stop." Noah kept walking faster. "You can't just leave like this." "I have to." Rainwater dripped from Noah's face as he headed toward his car parked near the fountain turnaround. "I'm engaged, Tate." The words echoed sharply through the rain. Tate flinched slightly anyway. Noah turned halfway around while still walking backward. "I want a life that doesn't include this every single day." Tate's expression hardened immediately. "This?" "Yes," Noah snapped. "The fighting, the jealousy, the obsession, you deciding every relationship I have is some personal attack against you." Tate moved closer through the rain. "You think this is obsession?" "I know it is." "Noah, I'm allowed to want normal things." "I've never stopped you, Noah, from pursuing whatever you wanted. I just want to be prioritized. I never kept you from having friends or interests." Noah's voice cracked slightly on the word normal. Rain poured harder around them. "I'm allowed to want stability," Noah continued. "I'm allowed to want peace. I'm allowed to want a future that isn't emotionally destroying both of us all the time." Tate shook his head slowly like he physically rejected the idea. "You don't actually want that. You do not get to tell me what I want." "You hate boring," Tate shot back immediately. "You always have." "This isn't about being bored." "Yes, it is." Tate stepped closer again. "You think Riley represents safety." "He does. He represents distance." Noah stared at him in disbelief. "You kissed my fiancée tonight to make me jealous." Tate didn't answer immediately. That silence told Noah enough. "Oh my God," Noah muttered. "You were already pulling away from me." "That does not justify any of this." Tate's wet hair clung to his forehead now as rain soaked through both of them completely. "You can't just destroy my relationships because you're afraid I'll leave you." Tate's jaw tightened. It wasn't going to work anyway. "What?" "The marriage." Noah laughed sharply in disbelief. "You don't know that." "I know you." "No," Noah said quietly, "you know the version of me that only exists around you." That landed harder than Noah expected. Tate went still for a second. Noah used the pause to keep walking toward the car. "Tate, go back inside." "I can't." The answer came instantly. Not angry. Not manipulative. Just defeated. Noah stopped near the driver's side door and turned around fully. Rain poured between them. Tate looked wrecked standing there. Emotionally raw in a way Noah rarely saw openly. "I can't keep doing this," Noah whispered. Tate took another slow step closer. "Yes, you can." "No." "Yes." "Tate." "I want you," Tate said. Rain fell steadily outside Talia's house, streaking the windows and turning the world beyond them into a blur. "I've never wanted anything before." Noah looked at him. Tate kept speaking, his voice quieter now. "My entire life, I never wanted anything. Whenever I thought I wanted something, there was always something wrong with it. It wasn't right, or it was tainted, or there was always some reason I shouldn't have it." He swallowed. "But you." Tate looked directly at Noah. "You're the only thing I've ever wanted that actually makes sense." Noah remained silent. Tate stepped closer. "And you're not going to run out on me just because you're too afraid to admit that I'm exactly what you want, too." "I shouldn't want you," Tate said. They stood together in the rain, the water running down their faces and soaking through their clothes. Noah looked at him confused. "Wanting you complicates everything," Tate continued. He threw his arms up in frustration. "It's dangerous to want you." Noah didn't say anything. Tate took a breath. I can't just let it lie. If I want you, I can't lie to you. I've tried. God knows I've tried, but I can't do it anymore. His voice softened. If we have any chance of being together, we have to find a way to let the past lie. Tate looked directly at Noah. Or face it together. What are you talking about? Noah asked, confused. Why can't you want me? Tate looked away from him. For once, he didn't seem to have an answer ready. I'm not sure what to say. He stared out into the rain. I know I have to live a certain way, I have to behave a certain way, I have to do what's expected of me. Tate swallowed. I have to keep my mouth shut. I have to do things I don't want to do. I have to say the things I'm supposed to say and pretend that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Noah watched him silently. My friends want me to express how I feel, Tate continued. They tell me I should talk about things, tell people what I want, tell people what I'm afraid of. He shook his head. I've never been allowed to do that. Tate finally looked back at Noah. I don't know how to want something openly, Noah. I've spent my entire life learning how not to. I don't want to be Tate Blue anymore, Tate said quietly, and I can't be Totem Blue either because that isn't right. Noah looked at him confused. You were supposed to be a temporary distraction, something to ease the discomfort of being rich, something that made the loneliness a little easier to tolerate. Tate's voice cracked slightly. But then you never left. He looked down at the rainwater running from his hands. And I never made you go. Noah stared at him. If I were a good man, I'd tell you to leave. Tate finally met his eyes. Being around me is poison, Noah. Being around me will ruin your life. He swallowed. And the worst part is that I don't want you to leave. Noah looked at Tate, completely confused. If you're a smart man, Tate, you'll get in your car and get as far away from me and as far away from our past as possible. Tate's face crumpled. For a moment, he looked less like the powerful man everyone feared and more like someone who had finally realized just how much damage he had caused. It was a wicked thing, Tate said quietly, his voice breaking, to involve you in all of this. Noah stared at him. Tate looked down, unable to meet his eyes. You didn't ask for any of it. You didn't ask for my secrets, my reputation, or everything that came with being close to me. He swallowed hard. And somehow, I made you carry all of it anyway. The bluntness of it cut straight through the storm. Not polished. Not strategic. Just desperate honesty. Tate's voice lowered. I want you not because I need someone beside me at night. He shook his head faintly. Not because I'm lonely, not because I'm bored. Rainwater rolled down his face as he stared directly at Noah. I want you because every single time you walk away from me, it feels physically wrong. Noah's breath caught slightly. Tate kept going before he could interrupt. I want you because when you're with someone else, I can't think straight. Tate. And because no matter how hard you try pretending otherwise, Tate said quietly, part of you wants me more than you'll ever admit. Noah immediately looked away. That's not true. It is. No. You're shaking. It's raining. Tate almost smiled despite himself. Then Noah reached for the car door. I'm leaving. Tate moved instantly. He grabbed Noah's wrist and pulled him backward before Noah could open the door. Tate. Tate turned him around sharply. Suddenly Noah was pressed against the side of the car, rain pouring over both of them while Tate held onto him like letting go would destroy him. Noah. The way he said his name made Noah's pulse stumble immediately. Years of history lived inside that voice. Childhood. Dependency. Jealousy. Comfort. Possession. Love twisted into something unhealthy and impossible to untangle cleanly anymore. Noah looked up at him breathlessly. You have to stop this. I can't. Then Tate kissed him. Hard. Passionately. Desperately enough that Noah's thoughts scattered instantly. The rain soaked through both of them while Tate held his face tightly between his hands and kissed him like he was trying to erase every argument from the night. Noah made a soft sound of protest against his mouth. But it weakened almost immediately. Because this was the problem. This had always been the problem. Whenever Tate kissed him, Noah stopped thinking rationally. Every defense blurred. Every logical boundary dissolved beneath years of emotional attachment and chemistry and history neither of them knew how to survive separately from. Tate kissed him deeper, rain dripping from both their faces. And Noah hated how familiar it felt. How right it felt. Like every terrible romantic movie where people destroyed each other emotionally but still crashed back together because neither of them knew how to stay away. Noah grabbed weakly at Tate's soaked shirt. "This is a mistake," he whispered breathlessly. Tate kissed the corner of his mouth. "Probably. We can't keep doing this." "And yet," Tate murmured against his lips, "you still kiss me back." Noah shut his eyes tightly. God. That was the unbearable part. He did. No matter how angry he became. No matter how much he wanted stability with Riley. No matter how deeply Tate frightened and exhausted him sometimes. The second Tate touched him like this, Noah stopped knowing where his own resolve went. Tate's hand slid into Noah's wet hair as he kissed him again, slower this time. Almost tender. And somehow that was worse. Because beneath all the manipulation and possessiveness and emotional chaos, Tate loved him. Violently. Selfishly. Completely. And Noah loved him too in some damaged way he didn't know how to fix. That realization hurt more than the rain or the guilt or the fight. Noah finally pulled back enough to breathe, forehead resting briefly against Tate's shoulder. "We're ruining each other." Tate held him tighter. "I know. But you still won't let me go." Tate's answer came quietly into the storm. "Noah, you stopped being someone I could let go of years ago." Noah tried to protest again, but the words barely made it out before Tate grabbed him firmly by the hips and pulled him forward through the pouring rain. "Tate." Then Tate kissed him again. Deep. Passionate. Relentless in a way that made Noah's thoughts dissolve into static almost immediately. Rain hammered down around them so hard it bounced off the stone driveway in silver sheets. Their clothes clung heavily to their skin. Soaked through completely within seconds. Noah's blonde hair was plastered to his forehead now, dripping constantly into Tate's face. Water ran down Tate's nose and into his mouth every time he tried kissing Noah harder. At one point Tate actually jerked backward coughing because rainwater went straight up his nose. Noah let out a startled laugh despite himself. "Oh my God." Tate wiped water from his face irritably. "The weather is sabotaging me." "You deserve it." Tate grabbed Noah again immediately. "You're still kissing me back. That does not mean you're winning this argument. It means I'm not losing." Noah groaned softly as Tate kissed him again anyway. The rain soaked through Noah's shirt so badly it had gone nearly transparent beneath the estate lights. Tate's own clothes were ruined too, his dark button-up sticking tightly to his shoulders and chest while cold water ran down the back of his neck. "You're freezing," Tate muttered against Noah's mouth. "I'm fine." "You're literally shaking, it's raining. It's 75 degrees outside." "Then why am I cold?" Tate looked at him for a second. "Because you're emotionally overwhelmed."